Well, a very good afternoon. Another full house. Very pleased. Thank you very much for giving of your time. You're hearing, Helen. Thanks very much for giving your time to come along this afternoon. I'm Stuart Render. I'm a group tourism consultant, a transport and travel writer. I edit the quarterly magazine for the Association of Group Travel Organisers. And in my spare time, I'm the joint chair of the British Guild of Travel Writers. So with all of that, it really is my pleasure to be facilitating this year's keynote sessions and to be here to facilitate or moderate, because I think they're going to need moderating, our three guests for this final session of today. One of the issues that I find myself writing about at regular intervals is the welcome given to groups when they arrive at a visitor attraction, a destination, or a hotel. And we know, of course, don't we, that in this post-pandemic era, many tourism budgets have been cut, many tourism suppliers don't have the same numbers of staff. And sadly, one of the first things that can go is the welcome or the meet and greet. Groups, I think, whether they're a private group or a touring holiday, might well be expecting, and rightly so, the same quality of welcome they received before the pandemic. But sadly, as I think we've all found out, that isn't necessarily the case. So to give us their own experiences and to explain just what's required to ensure an attraction, destination or hotel stays on an operator's or a GTO's itinerary, we have three special guests. And I think it's these three, not anybody else. Roger Bull is a director of Northamptonshire-based RB Coach Travel, together with his wife Pauline, who's in the audience, who runs Tourist Travel. To be fair, there's little the two of them don't know about this industry. Louise Webster is holidays manager with East Yorkshire-based Acklam's Coaches, and Acklam's is one of the country's most respected coach holiday operators, she writes. And Chris Morgan at the far end, is product manager with South Wales-based DJ Thomas Coach Holidays. Chris tells me, and I'm sure we're about to find out, that he's passionate about quality and finding ways to attract new customers. So clearly the group welcome plays a key part in ensuring the delivery of the product meets the client's expectations. Now I'm going to ask each of our three panelists to speak for just a few minutes each, and then we'll open up for questions. So Roger, would you like to start, please, and perhaps talk about your own experience of the group welcome?
Yes, so many of the hotels that we visit now, it's really not the same as it was pre-pandemic. We do, at most of them, get a welcome on the coach when we arrive at the hotel. Some of them we have to go in, and then it's a long wait at reception to get your room keys and to find the facilities. And then beyond that, when we come down to meal times, there are not the amount of staff that there used to be to accommodate your people. Some people at hotels have really got this down to a fine art, and it does work. But so many of them are lacking in staff that makes it very, very difficult for us nowadays. When it comes to towns and attractions, towns, some of them are really very good, have still got the meet and greet where the people get a bag of goodies, things about the resort that they're in or the town that they're in, and very helpful. Others, you're having a job to find somewhere to park, somewhere to drop the people off, and then it becomes very difficult and not very welcoming. This is what we found over the last 12 months. I've spent my whole life in the industry, and things haven't got better. They got worse. I always say to people, you look at London. In my time of driving in London, we think we've lost 150 coach parking spaces. And it's very, very difficult there now. herded off from one place to another, there especially. And that's the same in most big towns. They've not really come up to date to accommodate us. They're talking about green, but we're writing about polluting the atmosphere. Even with Euro 6 vehicles, there's still something coming out the exhaust. And so it's not gone forward, it's gone backwards.
Thank you, Roger. And when we talk about the welcome given by destinations, London, of course, as Roger said, and I think everyone in this room was likely to agree, it's not the most welcoming destination at all. It should be, goodness sake, especially for the amount of groups that we bring into the West End and elsewhere. We like to hope that in the months and years to come things will change. There's enough pressure on certainly Westminster Council and others to do more about this, but in the meantime it's hugely frustrating for operators. Thank you, Roger. I turn to Louise. Louise, what are your thoughts?
Well, being passionate about group travel and the coach industry in general, I think sometimes we lose sight of what we're all actually doing, and a customer focus is really what we're all trying to aim for. And sometimes I feel like that customer focus for what we really need, being a customer experience at the end of it, kind of gets lost. And so for me, a group welcome actually starts when we're contracting and we're actually speaking to our suppliers and asking for some help, and actually going out there and saying, we're coming with 50 people that want to come to your attraction, that want to come to your destination or your hotel. And post-pandemic, I feel that that's becoming harder, and actually the computer says no, and I feel like that's happening more and more. We've got some good examples, and I won't name or shame, but various attractions that are saying, come to our visitor centre, but you can't go in the castle. Come to our gardens, but you can't have the cream tea in the tea room because you've got 50 people, and we can't facilitate that anymore. So I think for me, the group welcome starts sort of with us, and what we're trying to do to build a programme. Given that, on the flip side, there are lots of destinations and attractions that are helpful, and they have come forward and said, we're open, we're ready, we want the coaches back. Lots of them, people I've spoken to today, are really willing and wanting to help us get their area back on the map, and bring the customers that from our areas, and often smaller businesses from our local areas. They want us to come back, but we do need that help. We need to know that it's coach friendly, that let's look after the drivers, because we know that if you've got happy drivers, you've got happy customers. If you can help us with some refreshments for the drivers, coach parking, we can bring people to you. We've got passengers that we want to bring out there. So I think the relationships that we've built with our suppliers during COVID, and as a product manager, that's kind of what we base our jobs on. Those relationships were really, really strained during the COVID times, and I feel that the good relationships really came out the other side, and they're the people that have actually helped us be creative, turn the attractions to being outdoors, or whatever it might have been at the time when we needed to have capacity restrictions and what have you. Those are the people that you remember. Those relationships with those suppliers stick out, and you go back to them, and then we've been creative together, and it's not just black and white. And I think that will be what brings us out of the other side. And actually then, if they can respect the group and treat them as an individual, we'll really see them all having a great experience. So it's just remembering that they're all customers, and they're all they're all after a good experience. I think that's my point.
I think whilst you've just mentioned that, I have to ask you, are there the destinations or the attractions or the suppliers who have shown that they're bothered? They're the ones obviously you're more likely to work with.
Absolutely.
There are some clearly, and we think we know who some of them are,
who
just really haven't bothered. Particularly, they've not looked after the industry while
they
COVID.
see it as a hassle. We're a hindrance, and you say you're calling from a coach operator, you're calling from a group organiser, and they hear group and they think, ooh. And sometimes suddenly the group sizes have gone from 53 people who want to come and spend money and enjoy your beautiful destination, and they turn around and they say, oh, well, our group size is maximum 20 now. And we say, well, I've got 25, can we be flexible? No. And then we're up against it, and then we have to reorganise our itineraries and change something that we've brochured 12 months ago. It's just constant challenges and barriers. We feel like we're a hindrance. We're putting barriers up for groups to have a great time just the same as an individual.
You'd think if Which Magazine and others can produce a list of the worst airlines or worst train operators, we could actually have a list. We couldn't do it, of course, but a list of the worst destinations and attractions and name and shame. I don't think it's going to happen, but it is surprising and it's astonishing, really, to see that sort of thing happening. They've probably got good reason, but it's not helping, is it? So,
No.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so having been in and around all of this about 11 years of my life now, most of my adult career really in and around coaches, between driving and now as a product manager, it's been a decline, and I'm really sympathetic with staffing issues in hotels and destinations, because we feel it as operators as well with drivers. However, we've just seen a massive increase in like a different of how our passengers and customers are being treated in comparison to a private customer. Again, I won't name and shame, but we sent a breakaway for Christmas where customers of ours were segregated from private passengers and treated differently at meal times to how private passengers were treated. And we bring in 30, 40, 50 people at a time potentially to hotels, to destinations, to towns, and to feel like segregated away from private passengers, private customers, it really does feel like we're a lower class, really, just because we're out on coach travel. I understand that the costs of everything are rising. They are going up. We experienced another 40% increase on 2023 pricing going into 2024. And I am worried that we are hitting the ceiling with our passengers of what they are prepared to pay for a coach holiday. And they're not receiving the service that they would if they just got in the car and travelled down and paid on their own. That is a concern for us as a company. I know it's a concern that's felt throughout the industry as well. It's sort of bringing the groups back into a level playing field, really, with private paying passengers and customers for anything. We've seen it with excursions as well. Louise touched on it. We're having issues with group sizing, especially Scotland area. We're having massive problems with distilleries and tours in Scotland, where they're limiting group sizes, and it's not feasible for us to run to these destinations anymore. We've always been a massive seaside resort company. We've based the primary bulk of our brochure on seaside resorts. And we've just seen such a mass increase on pricing and a lower quality in seaside resorts that it's not really viable for us to run anymore. We run between 300 and 400 departures a year across Europe, and we are finding far better service on the continent than we are in the UK now.
Yeah.
So it might well be that if this continues and the price increase continues in the UK, that we would predominantly run a continental programme and a lot less in the UK.
Do you find that before the pandemic, I don't know, in my view and my experience, that the quality of the group welcome, the specialists or the people who are responsible for groups in the various attractions and destinations and hotels, they knew what they were talking about. We were at long last getting through to them the fact that a private coach groups come in many different types, but the main one being a private group where everyone knows each other, or a tour where Mr. and Mrs. Jones don't know Mr. and Mrs. Smith until probably after the first evening when they've sat together. So there's that difference. But now, with so many staff having moved around, or we've lost people because of the pandemic, the staff who are there haven't got the same understanding, and we're going backwards in where we should be.
Absolutely. In terms of attractions and destinations we used to visit, from a driver's perspective, when I used to drive these tours, I could go to destinations and know who I was meeting there because I'd been there so many times before, and it's always been the same member of staff on first name terms, be that a hotel, be that an excursion. You knew who you were meeting. Now you've got no idea until you turn up, and sometimes there is nobody. There is nobody there that's physically in charge of that group welcome or any form of interaction with that group.
Roger, with you and Pauline, are you finding a similar thing?
Yeah, we find that in quite a lot of places. Also in our excursion program, we were finding at one time some destinations wouldn't take us because we were coming in on a coach. And they were saying that it's 20 people coming through the door. We said, once they get off the coach, they're all individual people going to walk around your attraction. And then eventually they did agree with this and would take us. But that was very difficult in the early times when we first came back for our excursion program.
Louise, do you feel, and I note that the communications director of the Coach Tourism Association is over there, and I wonder whether the CTA or other organisations, there is a need to somehow communicate now or start some other a campaign, in addition to whatever's happening already, to remind destinations and attractions, either through Alva or one of the other organisations or one of the hotelier organisations, to point out that groups aren't the same. And if we are noticing that this welcome across the board is dropping off, and there are exceptions, as you've said, but if that welcome is dropping off and the quality of the welcome is paramount to the success of getting new customers, perhaps people who've travelled by car and now want to try coach travel for the first time, that quality has to be absolutely there. And if we're not getting it, do you think there's something that needs to be done?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the quality is certainly not in line with the rates that we're seeing. So that's a huge thing. And we don't think, like Chris said, we don't think that we can take our selling prices any higher. You know, they're not attractive anymore. Yet actually, as an industry, we are attracting people because we are affordable and the sustainable line. You know, people are looking at us, and we do take the stress out of travel. You know, and that's the benefits and the attractiveness of coach travel. And I think that if we could get the help and the assistance across the industry to get that out there, you know, we shouldn't be looked upon as, oh, it's a group. It's just, we are literally, you know, the individuals are getting off that coach, and they should be treated as an individual. And I think, you know, meals in hotels, that's always a problem. You know, the quality of meals and where they're placed for dining, you know, they should be treated like individuals. There's no need. So yes, any help from the industry would be welcomed, yeah.
I think one of the things that, Chris, I know you're very passionate about is attracting new customers, what I'm, in a way, of any age, but at the very least, the younger oldies, as I call them, the people who are getting a little bit older now, perhaps don't want the hassle of driving themselves and parking, and get on board a coach, whether it's a private group or it's on a tour. But what are you doing to encourage more new customers, shall we say, to trial coach travel, but knowing that we've got all these challenges, you know, in there as well?
Yeah, well, it's no real surprise that the average age of a coach traveller is a bit older. I think our average age is about 62. It can be a bit higher, a bit lower in and around the country. But we are finding the themed breaks are really like the breakthrough now for new passengers and new customers all across the UK. Really, we haven't even specialised in a particular area, and we tend to be doing a lot more of murder mystery, tribute weekends, those sort of areas. Entertainment is a real big thing that attracts new clientele for us. So hotels that are just bed and breakfast, or just dinner, bed and breakfast with nothing going on in the night, that's not really appealing to our customer base. It can be appealing to the older generation, maybe, that don't want the hassle, but even the older generation do like a game of bingo in the night. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't float my boat, but it does to some. But yeah, definitely more entertainment based at the hotel, and I'm finding that the younger clientele that we're bringing in are willing to pay for that entertainment. So yeah, definitely, you know, like any form of theme break is a real big seller for us within a hotel. You know, tribute acts, 80s, 90s weekends, again, very popular for us. Murder mystery sort of nights, they play a big part in our programme.
Excuse me. I know that you mentioned that, you know, the welcome across the water in continental Europe is probably better than we find here sometimes. Yeah. And I'm thinking, Roger, you go across the channel quite a bit. I don't know what your market is for, say, river cruising or groups going on river cruising, but are continental holidays, because of that welcome, is that now proving, now we've sorted out the Channel Crossing debacle, which is, it's settling, if that's the way of describing it, but what's your experience now? Are we seeing a resurgence in continentals?
I think continental travel is still very slow in our area, and you've really got to have an attraction for the people to go on the continent. We don't do any river cruises at the present moment in time, but we found most of our people like to go to different destinations. We have a small area where we pick up, and so people need a variety from our area, not the same tour every year, and that gives us a big problem sometimes. But yes, by and large in Europe, it's a lot better than it is in the UK, but the expense is there in Europe. You know, you're looking at a cup of coffee, minimum 5 to 6 euros now. Drinks up to 10 euros, and so then that makes it very expensive. Whereas people are looking at our own holidays in the UK, if it's an inclusive holiday, they're looking for more that sort of holiday.
And Louise, with your experience of continental touring, how's that developing? Is that coming back?
It is for us, actually, yeah. I mean, again, it's stepping stones and building blocks, but we are selling river cruises, and they are selling well. In the typical destinations, the Danube and the Rhine seem to be the main hubs. But again, they are all actually trying really, really hard with us to make sure that we get the people back, and actually they're being really flexible with their terms, where river cruising used to be very much lots of money up front and you're not having that flexibility. It's not like that at the moment. They are really helpful, and we're just taking it kind of slowly. We're sort of making sure we fill a departure and we sell it well and we deliver it well, and again bringing the customer focus back to our attention.
Okay, other microphone please. Let's open it up to the audience. You may want to ask what these guys are doing to enhance the welcome. I don't know if anybody here has a particular question, perhaps from a destination or attraction side. I'm sure everyone in this audience is doing the best they can. But do we have any points anyone would like to make or anything you'd like to ask of our panel? I love this bit.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angela Graham. I am co-founder of Agatours. We organise group tours mainly on the continent of Africa. So in terms of group welcome, you spoke about all the challenges. What are the consequences to improve the service from those service providers? So solutions. Now we know what the problems are.
I think it's a very difficult solution. We provide vehicles to the latest specification, and since COVID we've had to do so many more things to the vehicles and make sure that everybody is very welcoming on board of our vehicles, and we do our utmost beforehand to check out as many of our destinations that we can, so that we know our customers are going to get a good welcome. But you can go and check somewhere this week, and next week it's a completely different change.
I get that, but in terms of using those providers, or promoting them, I mean, there has to be a consequence. I think you touched on it. The name and shame may not work, but other ways, so that they're informed that, we can't support somebody who is not living up to the standard that we are setting as an example. Because it's a collective, isn't it?
I mean, I'm on the board of the CTA, and we have a WhatsApp page amongst all of our members, and you find out the poor ones get listed on this and gets discussed amongst CTA members to try and find the solution, or we don't use them.
I think I sort of said as well, the relationships, I would start to not use that hotel, for example. And I know sometimes we have to, and it's about availability and the location, but if it becomes that difficult and you're getting the complaints, I always feed that back. And if it was an attraction, again, it was about relationships, talking, how can we tweak things to make it work, to make it better. But if I had to step away, then we would.
Yeah, we've done the same thing. We've pulled away from a hotel or a destination where it's become too difficult. If we can't, we always try to fix the problem before we move away from somewhere. We wouldn't just pull the plug. But it has got to a stage with certain locations in the UK and certain hotel chains that we've used that we just physically can't deal with them anymore, and we've had to move away from that. And it will cost us in the short term, because we have pulled some pretty popular destinations from our brochure just to get away from a difficult time. Yeah.
Do you find that having, as Louise said, you've spoken with an attraction or a supplier or a hotel, you've explained what sort of group you are, like it used to be pre-pandemic, right? They know who's coming, we've got it sorted. We're not going to be put in the room at the back, out of the way just because we're the coach group. There's no difference, as you say, to people arriving on a coach as if they're arriving individually on a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
But there's a historic reputation for this, and it's hard sometimes to shake it. But you would think now, with the way that everything is now since COVID, and we've heard it earlier today from some of our other presenters, this commitment to actually making sure the experience is absolutely first class across the board. So, but we still have a job to do, don't we? In the coach, so for coach travel, whether it's a private group or it's a touring group, we're not quite there.
Absolutely. I mean, we are here. We want to bring people in. Scope of things, we're a smallish company in South Wales, and we carried 25,000 passengers last year in 2022. And that is massive for our area, and we took them all over the UK. We are here. We want to bring people to you. We want them to spend their money with you. And we just want it to be an easy process. Another thing that we've encountered quite a lot recently is a lot of hotels closing to government contracts. That's causing a massive headache for us. But we understand that you're going to take a government contract that's going to pay you a lot more for a lot less work. It's fair enough, but give us some, if you are going to do it, give us some notice. Because we've had some hotels drop us on a Thursday and we visited on a Friday.
Yeah.
Give us a bit of notice.
And it really hit us hard in sort of December, just on some of our weekend breaks, where we had full groups going to various events around the UK, and the hotels were closed that week. And frankly, certain hotels were fantastic and helped us look for alternatives. Certain agents helped us and helped us absorb the cost, but there was a good handful where we were left with sort of 5 full groups. We didn't have a hotel that week. We had to find alternatives. There were massive premiums, and we just absorbed it because we wouldn't let our customers down. We didn't want to cancel, and we just absorbed that. But we've spoken to other hoteliers here today, and we appreciate that they get told themselves late from the government contracts. But frankly, it is crippling us. It really is.
Any other questions from the floor?
Stuart?
Oh, there's one back there, I think. I've seen somebody's hand go up over there.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks. Rob from Albatross. Is there an ideal group welcome? I mean, I know a lot depends on the venue itself, but would you see like a welcome on the coach as being the ideal solution in all cases, or would you prefer it to be held inside if space allows?
I prefer it on the coach. I don't know about you guys, but I do. I think we've had some new drivers recently, and we do a lot of driver training, and that they always try and ask us what's the best way to keep the group contained. How do I get the message across to the group? How it's going to go down, what's going to happen at check-in. And we've always said, if you can keep them on the coach, you've got them. It's not like herding cats then, once they've gone, they've gone. And so actually when we find a new hotel, we do a lot of background work with the hotel and the reception to sort of make sure that they know what time we're arriving. And yes, if they will offer that assistance on board the vehicle, we think that's better. The reception staff can talk about the hotel and what to expect and hand out the keys, and it's just much smoother and well organised.
Yeah, it can be like having kids. Once they're on the coach and they're contained, if you can get them on there, tell them what the entertainment is, tell them what time they're eating, and let them off, they are far happier. And not just that, they like to have that point of contact.
Yeah, I agree.
So if it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that you've hired purely for this job. It could be somebody that already works for you, just make it their responsibility to just come out and just give that welcome on the coach. Everybody's happier getting off the coach to start with. I can tell you our drivers would be a lot happier, and generally just having that point of contact makes a massive, massive difference for our passengers.
Yeah, I think that is totally correct, because especially at attractions, if somebody from the attraction comes to the coach, they're giving them explicit instructions to where they've got to go, There's nobody halfway round the attraction during the afternoon say, what time did you say come back? Or which direction is this? Most attractions that give this information give you a leaflet, which then the people have got explicitly for themselves for the afternoon or for the morning. I mean, I think the main thing that we're all looking to do, we're trying to give the best we possibly can for our people, because we want them all to come back as happy coach passengers. Whether you go to the destination the next week or the next month, you want them still to become a coach passenger.
Thank you all.
Hi there. From a large visitor attraction where we perhaps don't have the staff to be able to do that because coaches are parked in a different area, would you welcome us giving you information like that that the driver could present to the coach groups on arrival?
That's a really good idea. And again, that's you being creative and looking at it from our perspective and saying, actually, we can't physically have someone on board, but yeah, if there was something in advance that we could hand out, you know, if we had some material to give to in our drivers' packs that they could physically stand up and read out, then yeah, certainly that would fix that problem. Do you agree? Yeah.
I completely agree. It's we dish out driver packs for all of our tours. So any information that can be provided, it will be read out by a driver, and that is I agree. It's a very creative way of looking at it. We definitely welcome that. Yeah.
I think what we have here is an example of communication between the coach operator side, tour operator, and the destination attraction or supplier. I think we used to have that to some extent before. It's dropped off a bit, I think, noticeably, because of fewer staff around here and there. But I think if there's one message that comes out of all of this, is that the destination attraction supplier talk to the coach operator, talk to whoever's booking to bring a group to you, find out what sort of group it is, what do they need. Remember to ask them, well, if you can offer a welcome or a meet and greet in whatever way, whether it's on the side of a Stuart Line Cruises in Devon, you know, and welcoming as the coach arrives and all that sort of thing. And then likewise, and it could be that the CTA has in the past, CTA has done this in putting together a hotel charter. These things can be quite challenging to introduce, but what they do is remind the hotels or the destination or the attraction of what the requirements of the coach operators are. It can be easily forgotten, and I think we're seeing a little bit of a slide back to how things were, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, and we need to rescue it back. I will, though, as we're getting close to the end of this session, remind you of Woburn Abbey. Before Woburn closed for its refurbishment, they had what I would describe as one of the best meet and greets in the country, and you probably know about this, and the team there won awards because of it. And the coach would arrive, and the group's coordinator would go out, meet the coach, give them a laminated card with a flower on it. They would talk to the group, explain what was going on. The card would go in the windscreen, and then every member of that group got a little card with the same flower. And that's because when you come out and you see all the coaches lined up, you might not remember which coach is yours, but you can spot the flower. And on the back of the little laminated card was the time of the tour, lunch, everything. And then right at the end of the day, if that wasn't good enough already, there was a wave away. Now, it works at Woburn because the office was near to where the coaches would park. But the team would come out, and as the coach would go, they get on the coach, thank you very much, and then the coach would be waved off. And the Woburn wave away, which I'm sure is the other end of the meet and greet. We've never found a better name for it. If everybody could do that, now it's not possible everywhere, but wouldn't that be great? And the people on those trips had the most magical experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't work everywhere.
They'd feel special, you know, they'd feel...
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, just to finish, because I'm conscious of time, we could go on forever, I'm sure. But for each of you, Roger first, sort of one top tip, if it isn't just what I've already said, but one top tip about how the visitor, the attraction and the destination and the hotel sector can help you as the operator.
Is to give us all total information to make sure that we know well in advance. We speak with all hotels and say, what are we going to do this week? Are there going to be any changes? Because some of them we don't get this communication, but most of them we do. And we're very thankful, and that's why so many of us go back to these hotels again and again.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's simple things that that people sort of take for granted. You know, if it's about walking into a hotel and needing to turn left, make it clear that they need to turn left. Really simple things, because people suddenly go off, and then that comes back to us at the end as a complaint, and it's a really simple thing. So that idea that they did was lovely, and actually people feel special, and people feeling special is what they'll remember, and it's that memory that we want to pass on.
I think the only thing I really want to see starting imminently is treat coach travelling passengers as private passengers. No segregation, no difference in service. Their customers the same as every other customer, and that's the biggest thing I'd like to see immediately making a difference.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. Roger, Louise and Chris, would you like to say thank you in the traditional fashion? Thank you very much indeed.
Can we get all our points across?